Well, let me just introduce the topic first. We are Mark and Iliana, the Tax and Borders team. Today, we're analyzing the Trump administration's May 22, 2026 directive, the one that overhauls the green card process. I take the position that these overhauls, specifically restricting adjustment of status and modernizing our digital infrastructure, restore the rule of law. They eliminate systemic loopholes and secure the economic foundation American seniors rely on.
And I maintain the opposing position, because you do not fix a foundation by exiling the very people who are physically holding up the house.
I disagree with that characterization.
Hear me out. These bureaucratic changes are a calculated mechanism. They are designed to trap and deport undocumented immigrants. By forcing applicants out of the country, this administration is ripping vital family caregivers away from vulnerable American seniors, and crucially, actively bankrupting the financial infrastructure of the Medicare system.
Let us look at what this policy actually does, instead of relying on catastrophic framing. For years, the adjustment of status procedure under Section 245 of the Immigration and Nationality Act has been, utilized as a default pathway.
It is a legal pathway.
It is an exploitation of the framework. Foreign nationals would enter the United States on temporary visas, overstay, and then just remain in the country while their green card applications were processed. The new directive correctly reclassifies adjustment of status as an extraordinary remedy.
Extraordinary meaning nearly impossible to attain.
It means it requires applicants to undergo consular processing, meaning they must apply from their home countries. This allows the immigration system to function as the law originally intended, rather than incentivizing people to bypass the proper queue.
The requirement to leave the United States is not just a procedural correction, it is a statutory trap. We have to look at the actual mechanics of unlawful presence here.
The mechanics are straightforward. You apply from outside the border.
No, if an undocumented spouse or, say, the caregiver child of a U.S. citizen has accrued more than 180 days of unlawful presence in the country, forcing them to depart for a consular interview does not just move their paperwork overseas.
It moves the processing to the consulate.
The moment their feet touch foreign soil, they trigger an automatic 3-year ban on reentry. If they have been in here for a year, it is a 10-year ban. You are talking about exiling the primary caregivers of American seniors.
I am not convinced by that line of reasoning.
How can you not be? You cannot place a senior's life on pause for 3 to 10 years while their caregiver waits in a massive bureaucratic backlog in another country.
Because your argument ignores the fundamental purpose of consular processing. Look, when individuals apply from their home country, it reduces the burden on domestic enforcement.
By separating families?
By maintaining order. If an application is denied, the government does not have to spend resources tracking down individuals who simply slip into the shadows.
Because they are already outside our borders. Think of it like a line at a bank.
Okay, you cannot bypass the queue, demand service at the exit door, and expect the institution to simply accommodate you because you managed to get inside the building. You must go through the proper entrance to maintain order.
I am sorry, but I just do not buy that. Let me tell you why. The bank line analogy fails completely when the bank's proper entrance is barricaded and the processing system inside is already collapsing. The consular processing system is massively overburdened right now.
They process millions of visas.
We are talking about 1.4 million green cards granted annually. With nearly 1 million of those traditionally processed within the United States, shifting that immense volume overseas guarantees that families will be separated indefinitely.
The law provides exemptions for extraordinary circumstances. Officers have the discretion to weigh positive factors like severe caregiving responsibilities.
Relying on an extraordinary circumstances exemption is a gamble with human life. The directive does not explicitly define hardship. It leaves the decision entirely to the arbitrary discretion of individual officers. Officers who, by the way, operate under an administration that has explicitly mandated maximized deportations.
Discretion is a standard, necessary element of all legal adjudication. I mean, if a caregiver is truly indispensable, they can present empirical evidence.
They do present evidence.
Right.
Letters from medical professionals, detailed care regimens, sworn affidavits. They can prove that administrative grace is warranted, but we cannot allow the emotional weight of individual caregiving scenarios to dictate national border policy.
It is not just emotional weight, it is an economic crisis. The integrity of the system requires strict, enforceable boundaries. If we abandon those boundaries, we jeopardize the resources that every legal resident depends on.
Let us look at the macroeconomic reality of those boundaries then. If you enforce this departure mandate and remove the undocumented workforce, you do not just isolate individual seniors. You bankrupt the safety net that supports all of them.
Bankrupting is a strong word.
It is the accurate word. The 2025 Social Security Trustees Report is explicit on this front. The United States is facing a severe demographic crisis. The ratio of working-age people to those over 65 is dropping rapidly.
Which is a known issue, yes.
It is projected to hit 2.7 by 2040. The trustees warn that having long-run net migration worsens the long-run actuarial deficit by 25%. We have concrete data from 2022 showing that undocumented immigrants paid $96.7 billion in taxes.
Paying taxes while unauthorized does not legitimize the unauthorized presence.
Of that $96 billion, $33.9 billion went directly into social insurance programs like Medicare. It subsidizes the health care of the very seniors you claim to protect.
That is a flawed premise.
Think about it this way. Undocumented immigrants are essentially paying a $34 billion annual cover charge to a club they are legally forbidden from entering. They pay in via I-10 numbers or payroll deductions, but they cannot claim Medicare benefits.
Okay.
If you deport them, Medicare loses its biggest uncompensated subsidy. Mass deportations will literally drain the Medicare trust fund.
That is an interesting point, though I would frame it differently.
How so?
Acknowledging that undocumented workers pay payroll taxes through ITINs or falsified Social Security numbers highlights a profound failure of governance. Relying on an underground, unauthorized tax base is neither a sustainable nor a legally sound method to fund Medicare.
It is the current reality keeping the fund afloat.
Are you seriously suggesting that the United States should intentionally turn a blind eye to unlawful border crossings simply to exploit undocumented workers as a financial subsidy for our senior citizens?
I am suggesting we face reality instead of implementing policies that crash the economy.
The solution to Medicare insolvency is a strictly legal, higher-skilled immigration system. The administration has implemented a newly weighted lottery for H-1B visas, prioritizing higher-paid, highly skilled foreign nationals.
H-1B visas do not fix the caregiving shortage.
Those individuals contribute significantly more per capita to the tax base, and they do it without compromising national security or the rule of law.
That is a compelling argument on paper, but have you considered the occupational realities of the senior care economy?
I have.
You cannot replace millions of home health aides, agricultural workers, and family caregivers with H-1B software engineers. You just cannot expect the physical needs of American seniors to be met that way.
High-skilled labor drives broader economic growth.
High-skilled visas do not bathe elderly patients. They do not manage daily insulin injections, and they do not fill the massive labor shortages in domestic care.
The labor market will adjust.
Furthermore, the economic damage of this departure mandate is immediate. Taking $40 to $60 billion in consumer spending out of the economy by aggressively deporting mixed-status families will shrink the GDP.
We have to focus on the long-term integrity of the system.
The Federal Hospital Insurance Trust Fund is already projected for depletion in 2033. Stripping away $33.9 billion in annual immigrant tax contributions accelerates that timeline dramatically. It places the healthcare of every legal senior resident in direct jeopardy.
The rapid depletion of a trust fund is precisely why every single government operation must be financially secure and procedurally flawless.
Flawless?
Yes. We can no longer afford inefficiencies. Which brings us directly to the technological overhauls implemented by USCIS. Alongside the departure mandates, the administration has finalized the transition to mandatory digital filings for Form I-485.
Which comes with a host of new issues.
It implemented Executive Order 14247. This phases out paper checks and money orders entirely in favor of electronic ACH transfers via Form G1650. This is a vital evolution.
It is an exclusionary tactic.
Paper checks bounce and require manual processing. Money orders are susceptible to rampant fraud. By moving to a secure digital framework, The government ensures immediate verification of funds. It stops the processing pipeline from clogging with paper waste and ensures that legal residents get their applications adjudicated faster.
I come at it from a different way. What you frame as a necessary evolution is, in practice, a labyrinth designed to exclude the most vulnerable.
Digitizing forms is a standard modernization.
Let us examine the mechanics of banning money orders then. The rule explicitly states that USCIS will no longer accept physical payments. You must use a digital bank transfer. This directly attacks low-income immigrants and the unbanked.
There are workarounds.
Many immigrants and seniors rely on money orders precisely because they cannot easily open U.S. bank accounts due to strict identification requirements.
They can authorize a transfer from a sponsor or family member's account.
Even if they do, an ACH transfer requires the account to hold sufficient funds from the exact moment the form is submitted until the government eventually decides to process the withdrawal.
Which is just standard banking.
With a money order, the applicant buys it, the money is spent, and the payment is guaranteed. With an ACH transfer, USCIS might take 3 or 4 weeks to process the intake.
Okay, but the funds need to be there.
For a gig economy caregiver living paycheck to paycheck, maintaining a static balance of $1,440 for a month is impossible. If a senior needs emergency medication on week 3 and the caregiver's bank balance drops to $1,400 for a single day,
Right.
and USCIS pulls the funds that exact day, the payment bounces, the application is rejected, they lose their priority date. This does not speed up processing. It systematically purges the working poor from the legal immigration system.
The requirement to hold sufficient funds for a government filing fee is basic financial responsibility.
It is a bureaucratic trap.
If an applicant cannot maintain the filing fee in a standard bank account, it raises legitimate questions about their financial stability and their likelihood of becoming a public charge. We cannot indefinitely maintain an antiquated, paper-based, fraud-vulnerable system simply because the transition requires financial discipline.
It is not about financial discipline. It is about manufacturing reasons for denial. Look at the specific execution of the digital I-485 process regarding the Form I-693 medical exam.
The medical exam upload is straightforward.
This is the most glaring example of a procedural trap. For decades, immigration law strictly dictated that the medical exam must remain in a sealed envelope provided by the civil surgeon to prevent fraudulent vaccination records.
Which was a paper-based rule.
If an applicant broke that seal, the document was instantly invalidated and the green card was denied. It is a deeply ingrained, terrifying rule for anyone navigating this system. Now, under the new digital filing requirement, applicants are instructed that they must break the seal themselves.
Yes, to scan it.
They have to scan the multi-page medical record, ensure the file size meets strict megabyte limits, and upload it online.
I see why you think that, but let me give you a different perspective. Adapting to digital document uploads is a basic requirement of participating in modern society in 2026. The instructions regarding Form I-693 for online filing are clearly stated on the portal.
You are talking about 75-year-old seniors and technically inexperienced caregivers who've been warned for 20 years never to tamper with federal immigration documents.
The instructions supersede the old warnings.
Now they are forced to manipulate a sealed medical record. If they make a scanning error, the upload fails. If they mail the physical copy with a broken seal out of habit, it is rejected. This is a deliberate barrier.
If an applicant cannot navigate a standard PDF upload, they have the option to retain legal counsel or seek assistance from community organizations.
Assuming they can afford it?
Holding on to outdated physical infrastructure slows down processing times for everyone. Look, the overarching theme of these policies, from mandating consular processing to digitizing forms and securing electronic payments, is the restoration of integrity.
I disagree.
We are enforcing strict boundaries to ensure that the U.S. immigration system serves the national interest. By eliminating loopholes that allowed unauthorized individuals to embed themselves in the country, and by updating our technical infrastructure, we are protecting the legal framework that American seniors rely upon. A system without strict, uncompromising enforcement is a liability.
A system that prioritizes bureaucratic enforcement over human life is a profound moral and economic failure.
The law is the law.
These policies have nothing to do with efficiency or integrity. Mandating that undocumented family members leave the country is a calculated method to trigger reentry bans and permanently fracture mixed-status families.
They are standardizing the process.
Banning money orders and forcing seniors to navigate contradictory digital medical uploads are targeted strategies. They are meant to manufacture technical application denials. By actively stripping away immigrant labor and exiling the family caregivers who physically support our aging population, this administration is not protecting seniors.
They are securing the future.
No, it is accelerating the insolvency of the Medicare Trust Fund and leaving the elderly isolated and without care.
The landscape has simply returned to enforcing the laws exactly as they are written. You cannot build a secure future on a compromised foundation. Whether you believe enforcing the building code saves the structure, or whether you believe we are bulldozing the very people holding up the house, the architecture of American immigration has been permanently altered. Thank you for joining us on the debate.